Okay, so now why don't we do a little bit of a review up to this point. So we're approaching a dialogue scene. And so what the first thing is that I like to do is I like to listen to that dialogue. In this particular case, we pulled that dialogue off the internet, the Katharine Hepburn scene. We laid it out on our timeline, and I started listening to it. I started imagining, putting myself into her shoes, feeling the emotions. That's what you really need to do. One of the keys of doing great character animation is that ability to put yourself into that character. So I'm putting myself into her shoes, listening to the dialogue, feeling the emotion, and starting to envision some of the poses and some of the expressions and how she might act that out with my character. Okay? So then the next phase after that, after I've listened to it literally hundreds of times, then I'm going to start doing thumbnails. And these are the thumbnails here. You remember we listen to the key phrases in the dialogue and we create poses that will hit each one of those phrases. And those are going to be our key poses. And if you remember, then we come back to our timeline. Come back to our timeline and we lay those drawings out, those little keys, those little thumbnails that we did. We'll lay those out on the timeline and start to time them. I'll shift them around. And if you look on the screen right here, you can see that I hold some of them. Let me mute that. I hold some of these drawings for up to 46 frames, some of them over 100 frames, just to hit some of those places where I need that dialogue to hit. And if I play this through, sorry, let me bring this up. If I play this through, bring the visuals up, right there we go. So if we play this through,
listen to me, mister.
You can see where those key poses
You're my knight
will hit the dialogue that I need them to hit.
Don't you forget it. You're going to get back on that horse, and I'm going to be right behind you, holding on tight, and away we're going to go, go, go.
Okay? And then after we got that, and I got the movement and the acting and kind of the changes in pose and everything working the way I liked, then it was time to start breaking those down and doing little pose tests of animation within those poses, within those key thumbnails that I did. Remember that? So now we jump over, and this is where we added our keys. This is our pose test, I should say. So this is where we kind of just start to break it down and start to define some of the movement, a little bit more of the acting, changes in expression within some of those poses. And I'm going to let this play again. And you can see that it's very choppy, but it's a little bit more full.
Listen to me, mister. You're my knight in shining armor. Don't you forget it. You're going to get back on that horse, and I'm going to be right behind you, holding on tight, and away we're going to go, go, go.
Okay, so remember, I want to reiterate, at this stage, I'm never worried about the dialogue. Right now, I'm just worried about the body language and expressions. Those are the things I think about when I'm at this stage and trying to get the proper emotion and proper acting across. Remember what I talked about in the very beginning, where I like to start very broad. We start with just listening to that dialogue. And then when we start with those visuals, those thumbnails, when we add them to the timeline, that's the broadest kind of idea that you can get. They're just big, blocky ideas of poses that go on the timeline. And then we break it down a little bit more and get a little bit of movement in there, which is what this pose test is. And so now that we've kind of covered our review, now the next phase, we've got our expressions, we've got our basic movement. Now it's time to kind of start to smooth out, to flesh out that movement a little bit more with breakdowns. And I want to start to hit the dialogue now. I want to get those mouth shapes and start hitting those keys. So why don't we jump over now and we'll go on to that next phase.